Hi, this is Steve Izaki. This is my wife, Tasha.
Hello.
And we wanted to use this video to tell you more details and give you more of an in-depth story and understanding of our campaign. We're just going to freestyle this. This is more natural.
We're conversational.
Yeah. And so, I guess you want to take it from here.
Yeah. So this time I'm going to go in more detail about my life before the injury and after the injury and what that looked like for both of us. So injury took place 14 years ago in 2011. We were actually just getting married, which is why the vaccine was recommended, the Gardasil HPV vaccine by my doctor. At the time, we had a bright future ahead.
Yeah, we did.
Really, from a normal standpoint, right? We still have hope now, but
absolutely.
We were both working for my parents. They have an IT company. I was going to college part-time, so I was working part-time, going to college part-time. A 4.0 GPA, studying dance and digital arts, which I used to help my parents with their marketing. That was one of the jobs I had. I was also a budding athlete. I was going pro as an aerial artist, which for those of you who don't know much about that, that's like acrobatics in the air. And if you ever want to look it up, you can look up Cirque du Soleil. And they do a lot of aerial arts. So I was actually going pro, did a performance at the LA Convention Center years ago. And I had a very active family and social life. So we have a daughter, my stepdaughter.
Rose.
I think I crushed the microphone, so I'll try not to do that. I'm very movement expressive. Lucy Rose, our daughter, my stepdaughter, was a very active stepmom, very active auntie to 3 beautiful nieces at the time. And also, we both served at our church.
Yes.
So I guess we can talk more about after the injury.
Oh boy. Okay, so after the injury, it totally changed our lives. Completely turned it upside down. We were married in 2011. By 2016, Tasha had to stop working. She was already stopped working.
It was actually at the end of 2015, and I had serious side effects just after the vaccine, which was right prior to getting married. I was able to keep working and kind of maintain a normal life for the first 4-ish years.
Yeah, and so come 2016.
Yeah, end of 2015 and beginning of 2016,
Yeah, I ended up having to stop working also to be able to take care of Tasha full time. But at the same time, I knew I was gonna have to figure out a whole new career where I would be able to stay home and take care of Tasha. Mostly because we just didn't have the resources or, anybody to be able to take care of her in some of the emergency states that she'd be in, getting stuck in the bathroom.
Or being unable to even get to the bathroom, because I deteriorated pretty badly in 2015. So for the first 3-ish years, from 2011 onwards, I was kind of maintaining a normal life, but struggling with serious issues behind the scenes. And by 2015, that whole year, I was very ill. Even though I worked, I struggled to work the entire time, and I was very ill. And my health deteriorated that whole year until I could no longer work. And that's when 2016, I had to leave work. 2016, just a few months later, my husband had to leave work because I would find myself in so much pain. I was unable to get to the bathroom or get from the bathroom back to the bedroom, to my bed, just situations like that.
Yeah, and so we made a deal with my dad to go and live with him. We lived in a little corner in the living room.
Because we couldn't afford our apartment anymore.
Right. And if I wasn't working, so I studied online courses and learned in order to do, I did a lot of personal development and professional development. I just knew I had to become a very resourceful, well-rounded person to be able to take on this endeavor. Basically, take the entrepreneur route, because that seems to be proved to be the answer to be able to create a lifestyle where I can take the time to take care of Tasha's needs. Long story short, I did take that route. My dad helped me, but over the next
10 years.
10 years after that, it was a roller coaster ride, up and down, up and down.
We moved 10 times in 10 years because for one reason or another, we either couldn't stay where we had arranged with family or friends. You know, they would run out of space and energy and resources. We had to live on couches. And so for one reason or another, we would have to move because we were struggling to make ends meet. With me being so sick and unable to work, I would try to work part-time, but I would always get sick again. And with Steven struggling to work and then to take care of me in between.
Right. It was quite a handful. I had to, the entire time I was getting better job opportunities, working opportunities, although it just seemed like it just wasn't quite enough every time. And our cycle is she would be in relapse state, and then she would get better, and then it would get to the point where our financial needs would come up, and she would jump in there and try to help out with some type of income.
Some way, whether it was trying to get aid or actually working a part-time job, which I did over the first few years of being sick and disabled.
And so that cycle would happen, and it just led to this state where eventually every cycle she would end up being worse. That on top of taking the pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, the secondary treatment. So what that looks like, to give you a more visceral, picture that you can really feel and see, is I would get very sick, like the first time I got sick, and I had to leave work in 2015, 2016, and I would be in a partially bedridden state. My symptoms would be very bad. I'd have very severe pain, all kinds of severe symptoms, severe nausea. I was losing weight like crazy. It would take me about 6 months to recover from that. And then when I finally did, and I was starting to come into remission and be in a less bedridden state, my symptoms were more manageable. Often I would have to try to find work or aid. And when that would happen, I would always get sick again, whether it be to work or due to the fact we'd have to move so frequently because we didn't have the financial stability we needed to keep our own roof over our head. For one reason or another, I would relapse. And so for 6 months, I'd be bedridden, and then I'd feel better, better enough to work a little bit, like not even quite part-time, but kind of part-time. And I would do that for maybe a week to a couple months. And then it would always end up where whoever I was working for needed more hours, or I needed more money to keep up with bills and treatment. And one thing led to another, and I'd relapse and I'd be bedridden again. And this happened over and over for the past 10 years. It's happened 10 to 14 times over the course of the last 10 years. So that's been our cycle.
Right. And also there would be many circumstances where our environment, because we're in such a compromised position, we would end up having to take opportunities of moving in with somebody. It wasn't our first choice. And so
wasn't ideal for my conditions.
Right. So the conditions, living with people or living around people,
or living out of your car and on a couch.
Right. When I was leading to that, it led towards ending up practically homeless, basically couch surfing.
Just not on the streets, but not having a home. And
right.
Needing to leave when asked to leave. So, you only have so long, and if you can't get it together, then you kind of got to go.
Right. I'd always be able to earn some kind of money because I was learning marketing, digital marketing, which is going to come in handy now. Well, there was a time when I started making some pretty dang good money, which was 2 years ago.
It was about maybe sometime in 2023. Yeah.
And
it ended sometime in 2024.
Right.
So for a year time.
So I developed a skill enough to make a decent to good living for being able to take care of Tasha. Our little apartment in Long Beach, California.
I had a studio, so just one room.
Yeah, but unfortunately, just last year, the agency lost a couple of key clients, and they had to let me go, and that's why we ended up here in Tonopah, Arizona, living with her parents, Tasha's parents. They graciously offered to just let us live here, not charge us rent, and basically give us a chance where we don't have to live in an emergency state.
Yeah.
But to just give us a chance to get on our feet,
get out of this cycle,
get out of that vicious cycle, get Tasha well enough to
get some quality of life back.
Yeah, quality of life in the sense where she can take care of herself. Because if the bottom line, the protocols we've developed and understanding these cycles, it's if as long as she gets her rest and able to get her needs, her bodily needs, sleep, eating right, and those basic stuff, then she's able to come into remission, come out of the relapse state. And the goal is to come out permanently.
Yes.
For the final remission, calling this final remission,
Project Final Remission.
And so that we can move forward in our lives to go from struggling to survive to thrive, and utilize our protocols and frameworks that we've developed, and also create programs for others in our situation, because we've found there's so many gals and guys in this situation that they basically fall through the cracks in society. The system doesn't take care of them very well.
Whether you're vaccine injured or your condition is just under-recognized or even undiagnosed, for one reason or another, you find yourself unable to get a status that is recognized legally to get some type of aid. And that's where you fall between the cracks, because you're not even really recognized societally. Most people, most family members really didn't understand what was going on with me for the first 14 years. It really took 14 years to get some recognition in any sense. And it's still very hard to get that in a doctor's office, which kind of leads to our mission and where we really want to, once we get from surviving to thriving, we want to serve our community of vaccine injured and just under-recognized and needy people in the disabled and chronic illness community. So maybe you could talk a little more about that and I'll fill it in.
On top of that, I'm also a musician. Prior to our marriage, I had a thriving do-it-yourself punk rock career, and I had given that up to do my professional development and take care of Tasha. But it's come full circle where I'm able to come back to my first love, which is music, making music. But this time around, I want to do it with a mission and a vision in mind, to leverage my talents to be a force for goodness in this world, and to basically use the attention, not to consume all the attention of success, but to leverage it to bring attention towards situations like this and bring awareness. So I want to lead others to do that, show them, share with them, coach or consult other, I call it impact artistpreneurs in the same way. My thing will be doing it, being a product of my product, starting at home, to use my music to bring awareness towards situations like ours.
Awareness and support.
Yeah, bringing awareness and support towards our situation and others like it.
Maybe I could fill in how that mine connects with that. So that's more my husband's side of our mission together. My side is as I become stabilized and come into my final remission, hopefully, that I'd like to, my desire and intention is to serve men, women, and individuals in this chronic illness and disabled community who are under-recognized and who need to really get out of the cycle of surviving and come into a cycle of thriving. And I want to do that by giving frameworks and writing books and even speaking online, since my mobility is still quite limited, to create awareness and then share the frameworks and protocols that we've developed in our situation to go from surviving to thriving. And we really want to, let me grab my little paper here. This is real life. I'm looking for, and my husband wrote it out for me, but this is an idea we've been expressing. Bringing awareness towards living a powerful life, basically in our new identity as disabled and chronically ill individuals, working towards healing and a better life. I'd like to help others to transfer their old identities, who they were and who they've been, into the new body that they have, the new vessel, and be able to live a thriving lifestyle and not lose their identity, because that's something I had to do and we had to do coming out of catastrophic crisis, which we're just starting to come out of, but we're still not quite head above the water. So it's so important, because you lose so much of yourself when these kind of things happen, and you're so stripped bare by the constant cycle of surviving and crashing and burning and coming back up, crashing and burning, come back up, that you really have to figure out, remember who you were, and find a way to transfer that into your new abilities versus limitations, and work out a peace with that, and then find a way to get support and access to some sort of, recognized status so that you can get help. So we want to unite what we do and our experiences to serve our communities this way.
Yeah, because it's such an important thing. Unless you've gone through this situation, it's hard to describe how lonely it could be. You could feel abandoned.
Very traumatic.
Yeah, it's very, very traumatic. Tasha and I have been going through this together, and she's the one that's been injured, but it's such a heavy burden on my heart too. And I can only imagine others in the same situation that are doing this alone. And your donations, your support in any way would really, really, really make a humongous difference in people's lives, in the lives of the needy in this case, that nobody knows. This is such a new thing.
It's just not well recognized yet. Vaccine injuries.
Yeah.
They're not well recognized, so they're far underreported, and the legislation is really poor around them for people in our position. It's very hard. You have 3 years to report the injury, and because doctors aren't very aware of the signs of vaccine injury, and the legislation is not in our favor, almost no one makes that 3-year time frame, which means you have no way of accessing a recognized legal status to get aid. You're simply someone that's unidentified and sick, That's kind of how it is in the healthcare system right now for people in our position.
Right. So this community is something that flies under the radar. It's not very recognized or seen, so bringing awareness has been our mission. These are people's lives, souls, not just dollar signs. And unfortunately, this is the aftermath of that type of view. And so we're taking it upon ourselves, and there's really no programs established in the system for this. So we're having to spearhead this vision, see the need, and try to fulfill it. So that's where your gracious donations will come into play.
Or your thoughts, prayers, and shares.
Yes, absolutely.
Wherever you're at.
So with that, we just wanted to say thank you so much once again, truly, truly, from our hearts, and from even, I'm sure, from those who will be affected in the positive way through our work. We thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. If you made it this far, great job, because we know that we're really tired and slow and perhaps a bit droning and lose track sometimes. So hopefully that all made sense, and just thank you for listening and having compassion.
Yeah, thank you very much.